Thank you once more for being back, and if you just joined us, this is Enterprise Weekend, reaching you from Enterprise Television. Let's head straight to our conversation for today. The Minister of the Federal Capital Territory, FCTA, Nyesom Wike, has clarified his confrontation with a naval officer during a demolition exercise in Abuja's Gaduwa district, insisting he was misinterpreted and never called any military personnel a fool. The clash occurred when FCTA officials attempted to enforce a demolition order on an allegedly illegal structure linked to retired Vice Admiral Awwal Gambo, but were resisted by armed officers at the site. Wike said his remarks were directed at the act of carrying out an illegal order, not at the military as an institution, stressing that he respected the role the armed forces play in fighting insecurity and has always supported the security agencies. Reacting to the incident, Minister of State for Defense Bello Matawalle said the exchange between Wike and Lieutenant A, Yerima, was unnecessary and should have been handled through proper military and administrative channels. Matawalle revealed that Wike had already contacted the Chief of Defense Staff and the Chief of Naval Staff, who advised him to allow internal military investigation before taking action. He commended the naval officer for his professionalism, noting that Yerima was simply obeying instructions and maintained discipline despite the tense situation. Let's get talking. I still have with me Mr. Wenga. Thank you so very much for being here. I truly do appreciate you.
Thank you.
All right, so let's get talking. Of course, this is one incident that would go on and on for the next 2 weeks or so before it finally dies down and another issue would take over. But as we still have it, let's talk about it. Wike is, of course, very tough and handy. Sometimes he goes overboard on doing the right things. But I love your say on what of course, what Wike had said, that he did not call the personnel a fool. We all heard when he said, "You are a fool." So why is Wike going back on his statement at this point?
Well, I think Wike's recent vote first is actually an afterthought. The point is that Wike, as FCT minister, had no business being in that place. As FCT minister, if he had reason to enforce any rule or standard, there are procedures that we would have expected that he would follow in enforcing such a standard. But that, in my opinion, that in itself does not exonerate the fact that that military officer was also on an illegal assignment. I completely agree. I mean, I completely disagree with the sentiment that the guy was calm, he was doing his job, blah, 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 blah. A military officer has no business providing security for a private estate of whoever, be it retired general or whatever. That's not the business. That's not why Nigeria invested in his training. He was not trained to be protecting security for private individuals.
Not private individuals. His boss, who is a former military officer, and
he was in that place. He was in that place to provide security on behalf of a retired naval officer. A retired naval officer is a private Nigerian. Let's even assume, for purpose of argument, that the land belongs or is allegedly belongs to even a serving.
All right, I think we have a lot of communication there. Mr. Wenga Komolafe was speaking to the issue of the fracas that ensued between Nyesom Wike and the young personnel, military personnel, and he was stating the fact that the young man was not supposed to be there in the first place, and Nigeria did not invest so much in their training for him to go protecting properties that belongs to individuals. Of course, different strokes for different folks. Lots of people might not really, go that route, stating the fact that All of this is more of an administrative work that should have been taken care of, from the FCT ministry, and not Nyesom Wike, making himself available or debasing the status of his office, being there in the first place. We hope to get Mr. Gbenga Komolafe to finish up on that particular thought, and we have a long list of other questions and inquiry that we need to get going on this particular program this morning. So I'll be right back, and when we return, we will do some more talking.
Are around the corner. Before you know it, it will be 2027. But before then, for you to partake in the election, you must have your voter's card. And for you to have your voter's card, you must register. INEC has rolled out the drums. We call this program Continuous Voters Registration. And it is for you to register. This is to do that if you want to vote. And it's important that you take part in the process of voting. Just go there, give them your name and your address. That's all. And of course, they will capture you, take your picture, and that's all. You are done. Within 5 minutes, you are done. And after that, when the time comes, they call it claims and objection time. That's when you look at it. They will paste all the results or the names of those that have registered all over the places. You will go to the place you register, check your name that is well spelled, and the information you've given them correct. And that's all. After some time again,
on ground. Gbenga Komolafe was speaking to that particular issue. Thank you so very much, sir, for being back. Sincerely apologize for the little inconvenience we had.
It's okay. Yeah, I was trying to make the point that
yes,
a military officer has no business doing security or sentry duty on the private property of a Nigerian, however highly placed. I don't care whether that Nigerian is a retired general or a serving general. A military officer of that rank or of any rank whatsoever has no business protecting private properties. And it's high time Nigerians begin to address this issue. Almost 1/3 of the entire Nigerian police force, if not more, are deployed to provide security services to a few privileged Nigerians, mostly politicians, and also soldiers who should be on more serious duties. Where Nigeria is currently faced with the issue of banditry. We just talked about the challenge of insecurity all over Nigeria. And we have our policemen and security officials, highly trained people, deployed to provide sentry duty on private properties. It is unacceptable. I can understand the overriding public sentiment against Wike. Wike is obviously a perhaps the most unpopular public official in Nigeria today. No thanks to his attitude, no thanks to his extremely overbearing conduct. Since he was governor of Rivers State, Wike has been known to trample on individual rights of Nigerians with stark impunity. We've heard stories of how Wike actually demolished properties of political opponents while he was governor. And since he has become minister of the FCT, we have also had stories. We've seen how Wike has deployed the authority of that office to award himself, his children, his family members, political associates, land. And sometimes he will seize this land from people who probably duly, got approval to those land and reward them to his cronies. So Nigerians are aware of this, and that antipathy translated to support for the young military officer. But in my opinion, the military officer was not necessarily right
But that is not coming from the military as an organization, as an institution, do not have the same feeling like you do. They said that they can only discipline a military personnel who is not in the right place at the right time. And the CDS actually said that he was in the right place at the right time and therefore does not need to be punished. So if the military as an institution is, sliding in for their personnel, why do you think we should differ on what we think the responsibility of that young man is at the time?
I'm saying military authorities have also been abusing their position and privilege to actually deploy military personnel for sentry duties, to provide private security services. That guy was on that land that belonged to a retired naval officer. So there's no way that could have been an official assignment. Let's face the fact. So the fact that the CDA is defending it does not make it right. And I honestly think Nigerians should be concerned on how military personnel and military security resources are being abused. Nobody is talking to that fact. Yes, Wike had no business being in that place. That is correct. But the truth also remains that that young man also had no business providing sentry service for whosoever. If the owner of that land required security service to be provided, he had more than enough resources to, like the rest of us Nigerians do, engage private security services. So this point must be made. A lot of policemen, a lot of security personnel are deployed to private homes to provide private security services to politicians and powerful Nigerians, why most of us are left defenseless. So for me, two wrongs don't make it right. I don't see the merit on both sides. What the incident has helped to expose the culture of impunity and abuse, which Nigerian officials, have become renowned for. Wike being in that place with his very uncouth language, addressing that officer, exhibited, that culture of impunity. The officer also, though we can commend his demeanor, which remained very controlled, and of course we must also commend the fact that he actually lived up to the billing that is truly a well-trained officer cadet of the Nigerian of the Nigerian Army. But for me, it's important that we should all be concerned about the fact that military security personnel generally are deployed in a way that amounts to abuse, because I strongly hold that powerful people, especially high security personnel, military officers, don't really have a right to be deploying soldiers to, if it's you that has a private property, you will not have access to bring soldiers to help you guard that property. If you need to provide security, which is what Nigerians do, all of us have to do it. All Nigerians have to provide security for themselves. We employ security guards, both professional and unprofessional security guards. That's what in the more affluent middle class, upper middle class areas of Lagos, we have gated communities that are manned by security personnel deployed by the communities, paid for by the communities. So if anybody wants to protect his property, he should go and employ a security personnel to do so, not to deploy a serving military officer to deploy his own private property. That's the point I'm making. For me, amounts to gross abuse.
Yes, very well. I truly do agree with you that two wrongs never makes a right. But given the dilapidated society that we live in, where processes are not respected, what do you think is the best way to go about the situation? Like you did say rightly, if the retired naval officer had employed the services of a police force, that property would definitely have been demolished. We have a story right now at Oworoshoki. The only standing building there that wasn't demolished by the Lagos state government was because it was guarded by a military officer or officers, and that was why it wasn't demolished. So how do you think we can save, personal properties without going this route of employing people who would go arm to arm with the authority and maybe live a civil life in Nigeria?
Yeah, and that's exactly the point I was trying to make, that this is an overriding culture of impunity all around. So if I'm not a soldier, I'm not a military officer, I cannot protect my property. It can be subjected to wanton destruction by politicians, by the government, and those who are close to them. No sane society is run that way. There are systems and processes and institutions that are supposed to provide services, to address this kind of circumstance. Nigerians are supposed to have access, broadly speaking, to security. Nigerians are supposed to enjoy the right to private property, irrespective of their status, whether they are soldier or civilian, rich or poor. But that's not the case. And that's actually why we are having, that's one of the remote causes of this banditry. The point has been made severally by many experts, especially sociologists, that each time you subject an appreciable number of people to violence and push them to a situation of desperation, a significant percentage of those people, not all, not even the majority, but a tiny percentage, which is significant enough, will constitute security threat. Because people will resort to self-help. People will lose faith in established security architecture to address their grievances and to address their feeling of palpable injustices. People will want to fight back, whichever way they can. And that's one of the reasons we're having increasing cases of banditry and violence in our society, because the powerful subject the weaker members, which I want to be the vast majority, to impunity and mindless violence. That must stop. And I think, for me, the lesson from what has happened between Wike and that young military officer is to highlight the salience of this fact that our military institutions, the army, the police, are in place to provide security to Nigerians, not to themselves, primarily. That point should be made. In a situation where more than 1/3 or even maybe half of the entire member of Nigerian police force are doing sentry duty in politicians' homes, it's not good enough. And the rest of us have to make do with whatever makeshift security arrangement we can put up. That's not good enough. And so the point really is that our politicians should be prevailed upon to follow due process, to stop engaging in mindless evictions and destruction of people's properties, and also to ensure that state institutions are not abused to their own private advantage and the general, disadvantage of the rest of us.
Very well said, sir. I truly do appreciate you. Thanks, goodness. The president has intervened in that particular issue, and we learned that everything has been resolved amicably, which means that Nyesom Wike might not demolish that building, and that, of course, the respect for institutions, especially the military, would be adhered to. But most importantly, the desires of our court is to ensure that everyone receives justice. But a situation where court orders are violated, Nyesom Wike has violated court orders of stopping him demolishing properties, but he has gone ahead to do that many times. So all of this, I guess, should be taken care of. Thank you so very much, sir. We truly do appreciate you.
Thank you. Thank you.
All right. So that's about the time we have for today. We'd love to say thank you for making this a day. Please do well to follow us. You can find us at enterprisetvnews.com. You may equally rewatch if you may, or download to watch later when you visit us at Enterprise TV7. I am Henry Igwebike. Thank you for watching and have yourself a blessed weekend. God bless you. God bless Nigeria. I'll see you. Bye-bye.